think Harry's a fucking twat. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's fucking life is hard.
Yeah,
you were
true.
the prince of
That's
a
true.
goddamn country who dressed up as a fucking Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope? Suck it.
Harry, whose memoir just broke the Guinness record for fastest-selling nonfiction book of all time. They're now releasing a version for kids. I don't know if you know about this. It's a twist on The Princess and the Pea. It's called The Prince and the Penis, and it's,
Meghan Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
Yeah, but my dad got out of copping and then became a food broker, which we're like, come on, that's CIA, right?
Yes.
And he's
food
like, no,
brokers.
I really am a middleman for jars of jam.
He works for Meghan Markle. Really
dad-
tiny jams, harvestable jam made from the oils of Montecito.
Don't know how to break this stew, H. But if you weren't in the royal family, M wouldn't be with you. Let us have an end to this debate about what makes a good man at B1.
There you go.
You can use that.
Good knowledge.
You can use that. That's the part. That's the part we're editing out of this interview. Boy, right there. All right.
Very
Unlike
similar
what?
to this experience.
Unlike what?
That's all right, you can carry on. You were doing great, you were doing great.
No, you're doing great.
No more following Granny's rules.
You sure about that?
If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that.
Right away, Megs.
What's brilliant about what she's doing is she knows people want to spend money, and spending money makes them feel like they're getting something that's better, even though it might not necessarily be true.
Goddamn right.
You can tell when you watch the show, she thinks just we're all animals and we're all just kind of pigs in the mud, and that she's helping us with jam and honey.
Conan O'Brien didn't just poke fun at Meghan Markle's jam idea. He flattened it effortlessly. One clean line was enough to turn her next Martha Stewart lifestyle branding into a punchline. And the wild part is, that was only the warm-up. The real damage came when he started aiming at both Meghan and Harry's broader image, especially everything around the Oprah-era narrative. From there, the tone shifted from playful teasing to full-on ruthless roasting.
Decided to re-air all the same advertisements that they had aired here in America, but they adjusted the ads slightly for British audiences. I thought that was strange.
And there was no mercy. This isn't the kind of clip Meghan's PR team can spin into another victim headline, because it only gets worse from here. Conan went beyond quick jokes and did an entire segment mocking their wax figures, and he didn't hold back for a second. He set it up like an investigation, turning what should have been harmless celebrity museum trivia into something humiliating and unforgettable.
However, you have generously offered to keep the wax figures of Harry and Meghan safe.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I may, I would just like to say that I'm definitely not using the wax figures for sex stuff.
what?
The truly lasting kind of joke isn't the one that gets a quick laugh. It's the one that permanently changes how people see you. Conan's wax figure bit did exactly that, because he didn't just roast them. He built a whole creepy, memorable character around them. And then the mood turned darker. Jimmy Carr brought up the scenario nobody wants to say out loud. If the line of succession shifted through tragedy, Harry and Meghan could suddenly matter again in the most serious way possible. That's the nightmare people think about, but avoid admitting.
We're in a loving home, and I treat them better than the museum ever did. They didn't appreciate Meghan's soft hands or Harry's supple lips. They are in a loving home, Conan, and I treat them better than the museum ever did. They didn't appreciate Meghan's soft hands or Harry's supple lips.
Oh! Ew! What the?
And before we even get there, you have to hear what the Osbournes said, because they didn't hold back either. The fact that someone felt comfortable insulting a literal prince on live television tells you everything about how far Harry's reputation has collapsed. This isn't controversial royal drama anymore.
He's a twat. He's a whining, whinging, complaining, woe is me, I'm the only one that's ever had mental problems.
He's become an easy target. And Kelly's point cuts deeper than a joke. They weren't sabotaged. Netflix didn't ruin them. Spotify didn't shortchange them. They were handed elite teams, massive budgets, and global attention, and still couldn't deliver. That isn't bad luck. That's a talent problem.
You've been handed the world and every major contract, you had podcasts, you have all of this, and you didn't deliver because
There's nothing to deliver.
Yeah, because you don't have it. And that's okay. And I think they do have a right to privacy, but that doesn't seem to me what they're looking for.
And once Sharon jumps in, you already know it's about to get brutal. That medieval times comment wasn't just cringe. It exposed the whole act. Meghan framed meeting the Queen like it was some oppressive nightmare, and Sharon basically called it what it was, dramatic and disrespectful. And then there's the performative couple image, the constant touching, the nonstop hand-holding. Body language experts have been calling this out for years. It doesn't read like security. It reads like theater.
All just craziness going around and around, and he's turned his life and the royal family's life into a soap opera.
Like they're always playing to cameras, trying to prove something that wouldn't need proving if it were real. Here's what makes it so absurd. Harry grew up watching the media destroy his parents' marriage. He knows what happens when private pain becomes public entertainment. And yet he's doing the same thing now, except this time, he's the one selling it. And that leads to the problem nobody wants to say plainly. Their entire brand depends on the royal family staying controversial. If the public stops caring about the royals, Harry and Meghan lose their relevance overnight. They need the drama, so the drama never ends.
You know what? You've got a great life. You've got a beautiful family. You're so much in love. Move on. Get a life. Move on. And they just can't seem to, because their living is by telling their truth on the royal family. That's how they make their...
One day, their kids are going to grow up and search their parents online. And what they'll find won't just be headlines. It'll be the reality that grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins exist, but want nothing to do with them. Imagine having to explain that to your child. Imagine realizing you're the reason your children have no extended family around them. The constant rebrand attempts are starting to look desperate. Royal life didn't work. Hollywood production didn't work. The podcasts fizzled. So now it's lifestyle branding and polo documentaries, anything that might stick. But the problem is, they built their entire identity around being victims, and audiences are exhausted by that storyline. Sharon's seen this pattern play out 1,000 times. Couples who live on drama, attention, and conflict don't end in reinvention. They end in collapse. The only mystery is when. The royal family can't really respond without looking petty. They're trapped by protocol and tradition, meaning Harry and Meghan can say almost anything, make any accusation, and face virtually no pushback. It becomes a one-sided war where the loudest side automatically wins because the other side isn't allowed to fight back. Most families handle their mess privately. They don't publish tell-alls. They don't package pain into Netflix specials. They don't run to Oprah every time things get ugly. They deal with it behind closed doors like adults, but privacy doesn't pay the bills, especially not the bills for a Montecito mansion. When Sharon brings up her own father, it changes the scale of the conversation. She had real reasons to cut contact, betrayal, manipulation, financial damage, and even then, she reconciled when it mattered. So the question becomes unavoidable. What's Meghan's excuse? Meghan's dad sold some photos and talked to the press. That's it. He didn't steal from her, destroy her career, or commit some unforgivable crime. But the punishment has been total erasure. No relationship, no access, no grandchildren. And Hollywood didn't just watch it happen. Once the Osbournes lit the match, everyone saw a chance to score points by piling on. Then came the Golden Globes roast, the Netflix deal getting labeled as a cash grab for doing nothing. And once a long-running cartoon like Family Guy decides you're worth an entire animated takedown, that's the moment you stop being celebrities and become a punchline. They didn't fall from royalty slowly. They speed ran straight into being a cultural joke. Cartoons don't do PR. They don't soften the truth to protect feelings. They exaggerate, sure, but they exaggerate what everyone already recognizes. And the reality is, these two aren't struggling victims. They're wealthy, titled millionaires doing sponsored content while crying about how they escaped. They didn't leave behind hardship. They left behind rules and responsibility. They want the fame, the money, the titles, and the sympathy all at once. and people were polite about it for a long time, until the mockery became too obvious to ignore. This is what it's come to. A prince roaming movie premieres, trying to network for his wife's voiceover career. The monarchy used to build alliances through marriage and power. Now it's reduced to begging for industry favors. The downgrade is so extreme it almost feels unreal, like history got rewritten into something smaller, cheaper, and embarrassing. Here's the pattern. People start off willing to hear them out, and somehow end up disliking them even more. They had moments where serious issues like racism and misogyny were worth discussing, but they buried the weight of those topics under self-pity, branding, and cringeworthy performative intimacy. Any self-awareness that could have grounded them just vanished. And by the time viewers finished their documentary, the reaction wasn't sympathy. It was irritation so intense, it turned into jokes about wanting to become the security threat. That's how badly their story backfired. Jimmy Kimmel did what most Hollywood people avoid. He didn't celebrate their success. He turned it into a target. He made the record-breaking memoir sound ridiculous, mocked Harry's ego, and then ripped into the central contradiction of their narrative. And then, he said what millions had already been thinking. If racism was the reason they fled, choosing America as the escape route is an irony so loud it becomes comedy. From there, the dominoes fell. Once the jokes started landing, Hollywood stopped pretending. And the victim act got dismantled more aggressively and more publicly than they ever expected. Here's what makes people furious. The contradictions aren't subtle, they're insulting. They claim they want privacy while constantly doing interviews. They imply they're struggling while living in massive luxury. And they talk like the public is too dumb to notice. That isn't just hypocrisy. It's a kind of emotional manipulation, dressed up in the right buzzwords about compassion and mental health, hoping nobody calls the bluff. That generational critique stung because it exposed the deeper rot. This isn't just about two celebrities. It's a whole playbook, weaponizing fragility, framing privilege as oppression, confusing complaining with courage. It's performative activism used as a shield for attention-seeking. And the moment someone like Bill Maher, who usually defends progressive causes, turns on you, that's when it becomes undeniable. Even the people who should be sympathetic can't keep pretending the act is real. The race shock narrative collapses the moment you say it out loud. The royal family is famously, historically white, so acting stunned that race would come up isn't just naive, it's theatrical. And then comes the darker twist. Normal human curiosity gets reframed as malicious racism because it's useful fuel for a never-ending victim storyline. Layer in the busy Duchess performance, fake routines, empty projects, titles clung to, while trashing the institution that granted them. And the entire thing starts to look less like a life and more like a constructed persona. Even their own circles begin to step back because the performance never stops. Meghan can't enter a room without turning it into an event. Even something as ordinary as a workout becomes a PR moment, like she's always performing for an invisible audience. One person shows up to decompress. She shows up to generate a storyline. And that's the pattern. The spotlight follows, the crowd follows, and everyone else deals with the disruption afterward. When John Oliver says they won't change, it doesn't land like a joke. It lands like a verdict. Not they made mistakes, but they're incapable. And then, satire from shows like Spitting Image nails the entire contradiction in one line. They stay close enough to Oprah to look important, but not too far from paparazzi because they still need the attention to monetize fame. Every move reads calculated, manufactured authenticity, designed to get maximum benefit while pretending it's all natural. Some comedians didn't just tease, they reframed her entire identity in one brutal idea. Without Harry, she's not a global figure at all. Just another struggling actress chasing relevance. The implication is devastating because it strips away the mythology. This wasn't destiny, it was luck. And luck is the only reason the world knows her name. Then came the reality check. The I didn't research anything act gets obliterated instantly because it's not innocent. It's absurd. You don't marry into the most documented institution on earth and pretend Google doesn't exist. And the harsher point underneath the jokes is this: when you speak confidently without doing the homework, you don't get sympathy, you get scorched. Tim Dillon's Real Housewife comparison hits because it crystallizes the whole brand. Endless drama, constant victim framing, cameras everywhere, conflict is currency. The only difference is the budget and the platform. The behavior didn't evolve, just the packaging. Same performance, same attention hunger, now dressed up with a royal title to make it look prestigious instead of messy. Even Harry's soldier era gets reinterpreted through this lens, not as duty, but as image management. A war zone becomes a photo op for a spoiled prince trying to look tough. And that's what makes the present-day complaining so unbearable. The guy who had every advantage cosplayed hardship for headlines, and now sells emotional trauma as if his privileged life was uniquely tragic. At this point, the jokes stop feeling like gossip and start sounding like an indictment. Here's the chilling part. They're one freak accident away from the throne becoming a real possibility again. One disaster, and suddenly the mockery stops being harmless entertainment. Because it's no longer about celebrities, it's about leadership and consequences. King Harry and Queen Meghan sounds like a punchline. Until you remember it's structurally possible. And that's why the ridicule has teeth. Not just because they're annoying or hypocritical, but because irresponsibility matters when power is still technically within reach.